There is perhaps no human being more worthy of the death penalty in Florida than Wade Wilson. He's been convicted of the brutal, sadistic, cruel murders of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz. I mean, these killings are just above and beyond. And now he sits on death row as his lawyers appeal the death sentence. And you probably have heard about this case. The killer himself has become a celebrity. He is a Charles Manson-like figure. He has courted women around the world. They have sent him hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for his defense and other things. And this is all being chronicled in a documentary recently released on Paramount Plus. And one of the key people in the documentary, one of the people who has exposed some of these jailhouse phone calls, is a guy named Paul White, a.k.a. JumpsuitPablo, who's a content creator, a very talented one in his own right. And so it is that JumpsuitPablo, Paul White, is having a seat with me on this episode of Have a Seat with Chris Hansen. Thanks for joining me.
Yes, sir. Glad to be on here and glad to be talking about this because it's a wild case.
It is like nothing I've ever seen. To start off, who is Wade Wilson?
Wade Wilson is a guy who, from Florida, got himself into a pretty bad, nasty scene and lifestyle, and one day decided to go on a rampage, a murderous one, and took 2 lives, tried to take 3, all in the span of a few hours. He killed 2 women, Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz, and had no remorse for it, didn't care one bit. And that's him in a nutshell.
How did you first get so fascinated with this case, Paul?
You know, I cover a lot of true crime, and I always have my eye on it and have my ear to the ground. And I started noticing there was some interest online with this guy, and with him being a murderer, not the good kind of interest. You know, it's
right.
People are fascinated by his looks and how dreamy he is. And so, you know, I started looking into him, and I said, at this time, he's already in trial for these murders. And I have a partner YouTube channel called Phone Calls from Prison. And, you know, they specialize in obtaining phone calls that were made in prison and jail by notorious criminals. And so I said, hey, maybe we should look into this guy and just see if there's anything out there and see what because you may know, but a lot of people wouldn't believe the kind of things people admit to and just say on these jail and prison phone calls, not knowing that they're going to be listened to eventually. And I said, let's just see what's out there. And when we got these calls and records back, it was insane, the things he was saying.
And inmates, Paul, know, or they're told, that these calls are recorded and that they're subject to public scrutiny. You can file a Freedom of Information report in most states and get copies of these. And in this, on your channel and the channel you collaborate with, and in this documentary, Handsome Devil, we hear some of these phone calls, including one between the killer, Wade Wilson, and his father. Take a listen.
They're not going to give me like the death penalty or anything, are they?
Wade, listen. I can't answer that. I'm not going to tell you yes or no. I don't know if it's a capital crime. You know, I think it has to be like premeditated capital crime or something. But you know, I'm not sure, son.
I wouldn't mind that, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, you know, listen. You know, all you can do. Your first step was you did the right thing by being honest.
Okay.
Second step is you have to work on yourself a little bit and figure out what it is that triggers you like that. We know it's drugs.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay?
Definitely. Yeah.
We know it's drugs, number one, but number two, why is it always women? Why are you so mad with women?
I don't know, because, I don't know.
You got to work that out, son. You know, is it your biological mom? You feel like she abandoned you, or I mean?
No, I don't think it's anything to do with it. I think it's like a power thing or something. I don't know.
It's as if he's admitting to his father that he committed these crimes, Paul.
Yeah. You know, and he was, his father was the first one he called right after he committed these crimes, you know, and kind of had a moment of, oh man, I know I'm in big trouble now. I don't think it was a moment of remorse and what have I done? I think it was more, you know, now I'm scared of consequences and I know this is bad and I don't know what to do. And so he confessed to his father, and his father immediately called police and reported him. And so when he finally talks to his father in this call, yeah, you know, he has no choice, but his father already knows, and he has to confess and own up to what he did to his father. And as the next few calls with his dad go along, you realize it was never really about taking accountability with his dad for his actions and these awful things he did. He was really just going at an angle of asking for money to be put on his commissary account so that he could buy snacks and various things. That's was his immediate concern.
He is a total psychopath, isn't he?
Yeah.
Tell me what he did to Christine Melton. How did they meet? It was in a bar setting, correct?
Yes. And he was at a bar, a pretty well-known bar within that small community, and it's where a lot of people went and partied and had a good time. He was there with his then girlfriend, Mila, and ended up leaving out of nowhere with Christine Melton. And, you know, his words coming from these phone call recordings he's had is that he was offered some type of substance. He says it was bath salt, something like that. And he did a lot of that before he decided to leave the bar with Christine Melton. Those are his words. They go back to her residence, and he ends up strangling her to death. And he does that and ends up taking her car. He didn't really mention what happens with Christine after he murdered her. But when we look at the evidence and the photos from the case, it seems that he wrapped her up in a blanket or some type of material and even taped it and just placed her body somewhere in the house. And he left and went to meet, you know, well, that's the extent of what he did with Christine Melton that we know.
And so he's got Christine Melton's car now. Mm-hmm. And this is around the time, and all this takes place in and around Lee County, Florida, which is near Fort Myers, Florida. And he then comes across Diane Ruiz while he's in Christine Melton, his first victim's car. What happens then?
So he had just left a spa that is owned by his, at the time, girlfriend, Mila. And he had showed up there and assaulted her and beaten her and broken her nose, beat her to the ground, and eventually had to flee because this is in broad daylight. Bystanders came out, and he took off. So he had just come from doing that. I, in my opinion, I fully believe he had every intention of killing her if he had the time or the privacy. And so he's driving down the street and sees Diane Ruiz. Diane Ruiz she has never met this man in her life, has no idea who she is. She is simply walking to work to start her shift. She says goodbye to her husband. She said goodbye to her 2 kids, walking down the street. And here comes Wade and offers her a ride. And so she gets into the truck, and he ends up taking her someplace and strangling her until he believed she was dead. And after that, he threw her out of the truck or of the vehicle. When he's driving off, he says he looks back in the rearview mirror and sees her moving.
Yeah, she's not dead, in fact.
She's not. And so he decides to back up and run her over. Not only run her over and back over her multiple times, time and time again, until he was sure that she was gone. And in his words on a phone call to one of these women, which he jokingly, and it was so funny to him, said, "I ran her over until she looked like spaghetti."
I've spent my career looking at hard evidence, and that's why I'm loving OneSkin. Their patented OS01 peptide is the first ingredient proven to target senescent cells, one of the key drivers of wrinkles, fine lines, and loss of elasticity. And the results are validated in 4 peer-reviewed clinical studies. OneSkin is dermatologist tested, safe for sensitive skin, free from over 1,500 harsh ingredients, and awarded the National Eczema Association Seal of Acceptance. I use it. Can you tell? Founded by an all-woman team of PhD longevity scientists, it's smart, science-backed skincare trusted by over 10,000 five-star reviewers. Born from more than a decade of longevity research, OneSkin's trademarked OS01 peptide is proven to target the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin with 15% off using code Hansen at oneskin.co Hansen. That's oneskin.co/Hansen, Hansen. That's 15 off oneskin.co with code Hansen. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. You talk about bath salts, which is a synthetic drug that's manufactured, and I've reported on this in the past, and different variations of this drug can make people go into a severe psychosis. To what extent do you believe the bath salts or any other drug had an impact on Wade Wilson's actions, or is this guy just, homemade sin?
In my opinion, I've done some time myself. And in these prisons, believe it or not, it's very, drugs and substances are very accessible, especially hard drugs, even bath salts. And people who are in there doing decades of time, that's how they get bored, and they like to pass their time by doing that stuff. So I've been around a lot of people who use these substances, and there are plenty of people who use these substances and don't go out and kill someone. In my opinion, the bath salts or whatever hard drugs he used that night kind of just put him over the edge of something that he deep down always wanted to do and always thought about. We even heard Mila give her testimony of, Wade had always talked about killing someone, killing people, and, and
this was something he had fantasized about in the past.
Yes. Yeah.
Even his own girlfriend testified about this.
Yes. And she said, she never really took it serious, which I think you should, but, never really paid attention to that. And I think those drugs kind of just hit him in a way that made him, they're going to make you do some crazy things. Yeah. But you're going to carry out what's inside.
What you're already thinking about.
Do.
Right.
Right.
In prison, he starts to get these tattoos, which makes him even more notorious. And along the way, he becomes a celebrity. How does this get started? Does he become a celebrity because of the notoriety of the case? Does he become a celebrity because of these jailhouse prison phone calls that got out? How does this happen? How does he get so many, especially female followers who are really just obsessed with him?
I think this really began right before or at the very start of his trial, because it was not the phone calls that catapulted him into this phenomenon. Those came out a good bit after. I think it was just his photo, his appearance, his not his mugshot, but just photo and video of him appearing in court initially. Once he had done all that to his face, there's a certain demographic out there that is into bad boys, as they call them, and you'll hear all of these women kind of confirm that. And you got a guy, he's 6'2", 6'3", he's not a bad looking guy, at least before the tattoos. I mean, I could see why women could be attracted to him, just physical appearance. And then he goes and adds all of these just very shocking, very eye-grabbing tattoos all over his face, very extreme tattoos he's put on his face. And, it's the formula to going viral, that type of the shocking, the intrigue, all of that stuff. And he just started to circulate around TikTok mainly, and things can get really big on TikTok. And I don't even think women were that interested in what he even did or the actual case. I don't even think it was the actual case. It's just him initially. And that was recognized by who was his main girl that was in contact with him at the time, and kind of supporting him and talking to him daily. And I think they saw some dollar signs and kind of started this whole, oh, he's innocent, he's being framed. And it just exploded, and everyone bought into that because it's really the perfect setup when you think about it. Here's this guy, I'm into bad boys. He's so dark and mysterious, and his tattoos, and he's good looking. He's in a jumpsuit. Oh, I kind of like that. But guess what? The real kicker is he's innocent. So now I get to be attracted to him and want him, and I don't have to feel bad about it because, he's innocent. And so it just gave this kind of freedom to all of these hundreds and thousands of women, and even some guys.
I've heard those conversations. The conversations, are shocking on a lot of different levels, Paul. But one of them, I think, is the level of attraction, obsession, talking about being intimate with him from these women. Let's take a listen to some of those calls.
Hey, Kristen.
Hello. What's up? How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I got your picture too that you sent me.
Oh yeah? Do you like it?
Very cute. Very cute.
Very cute?
Very cute, for sure.
And in one case, Paul, at least one case, a woman was actually putting her teenage daughter on the phone with Wade Wilson and had even sent him pictures of the daughter, which takes this to a whole different shocking level, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It said herself. I've heard.
Who does that? I mean,
I've heard way more.
First of all, yeah, I'm sure you're just
than I want to, but she
blown away by
clearly in active substance use too, and I really believe that we know for a fact she put her daughter on the phone with him, and she was underage, and there was no reason to do that. And he had conversations with her, and she did tell him, hey, did you get the pictures I sent of me and of my daughter? And he's like, yeah, I did. And there's no reason. I mean, that's such
child exploitation
environment to send a photo of your child to.
Lowest
and
level.
I think that she did that just to keep him on the hook, because she knew that probably so many women were talking that she was willing to even kind of dangle her daughter as some type of carrot out there to keep him interested in talking to her.
I mean, listening to this, it's almost beyond belief. You couldn't script this if you were trying.
Every new phone call is something totally unexpected, and just when you think it can't get crazier, each new phone call it does.
His main girlfriend, how did that relationship start?
I think she didn't know him at all. She didn't even live anywhere near him. She actually lived up north, and she saw him online, and she thought he was attractive and got in touch with him. So they started. At this point, Wade is interested in talking to anybody who is interested in talking to him, and he's going to ask you for money, and he's going to ask you to put it on this, and he's going to ask you to send this person this message and do this, and just you're an errand runner, and also you're a source of money for him. And so this girl was obviously very, very, I mean, she would do anything that he asked. And so she's a keeper for him, and she became his main person. And she, just like that one woman, her angle was, exploiting her daughter with him. Her angle was, listen, we're going to raise money. We're going to get you out of here. I'll handle all your money. You can trust me. And she would give him a portion of that. And she created all these social medias and these Save Wilson pages. And they because she saw how many women were in support of him once they believed he was innocent. And they really took that to the bank. They set up GoFundMe's. They set up social media pages. You can donate to the Cash App. They raised all this money. And so, yeah, that's how she got her place and kind of stuck there with him for the majority of this.
And how much money, Paul, do we think they've raised for Wade Wilson and all this?
You know, the number's still going up to this day because unfortunately there's still people donating. But just on the GoFundMe, because remember they're sending money all kinds of ways. But just on the GoFundMe, I do believe it got up between $80,000 and $100,000.
Between $80,000 and $100,000 minimally for a convicted killer.
Yep, to save him.
To save him.
Reverse the verdict. Get him free. Get him back out here.
And where do we think this money is going? Obviously, he's getting some of it to, get special treatment in prison, to get things from the commissary, maybe to smuggle drugs in. That happens. And what, to pay his lawyer? Is that where some of this money's going?
The whole purpose that was advertised to his army was to get him a lawyer, to save him during the trial. And then after he got found guilty and sentenced to death, to get a lawyer to appeal all of this, which he has now. And some money went to that, but I would say not even half went to that. A good portion of that money went to Jess, the main woman, relocating. Remember, I told you she lived states away up north. She actually moved down to the county that Wade was imprisoned at, so that she could have an easier commute to visit him more regularly and just be closer to him.
Now, on death row, does he get visitors on death row?
So he doesn't. You can get visitors, but what they're doing now, and this is in most prisons, this ever since COVID, really, they have tablets, state-issued tablets that they give inmates, and you'll do video call visits, kind of just like this. That's mainly how it goes, especially with death row. But even then, he gets in so much trouble on death row. He causes so many problems that he hasn't even had the privileges to get a video visit in very long months and months and months.
I've done interviews with inmates before where they set up this video system, and it seems to be the way most prisons are going. But back to the money raised just for a second here. We know from the GoFundMe what's been raised, but how much other money do you suppose has been raised by Cash App and other ways that they've been going at this to get people to give them cash?
I do believe the GoFundMe was probably the largest sum. There's a single donation on GoFundMe that's just for $10,000 from one person.
So one person gave $10,000.
Yeah, one person donated $10,000, and these are women. They have husbands and kids and lives, and some of them have very prestigious. They have government jobs. Some of them. These aren't just kind of what you've seen. Someone who's they're kind of stuck in a drug addiction and just they're not doing too great in life. You have people. It's a wide range, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure several tens of thousands of dollars through these other avenues have been donated and are still being donated to this day.
And we learn about some of these women in the Handsome Devil documentary out on Paramount Plus. What is the most revealing thing you learned about these women in the documentary?
I've spent a year and a half of my life every single day listening to hours of conversations with all kinds of women and Wade Wilson. There wasn't much for me to learn, but I think it's very revealing to someone who isn't aware of the case. Now, what I did learn about these women, maybe a day or two after the documentary premiered, is that some of them are just they're never going to get it, or they never want to get it. They don't want you to prove that he's guilty. They wouldn't, if you showed them a 4K high definition television with video footage and with the best camera quality ever of him literally committing these acts, they would turn their head and look away, or they would come up with something. They don't want to know that he's guilty.
They're living this fantasy. This is the fantasy that they want.
It is. I believe that the majority of these women, especially the ones still supporting him, I don't think they ever really thought he was innocent. Again, I think that just makes them feel better about the real deeper, sicker reason that they're supporting him and that they're fascinated with him.
What does this say, Paul, about social media and the influence of these digital platforms? I mean, I'm on them. I'm on TikTok just like you, promoting my material, the predator investigations, all of it. But it does have a deeper influence when we talk about a case like the case of Wade Wilson here.
It does. In the nature of the internet and how fast things get. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a funny thing. Sometimes it's a wholesome thing. And someone really, something really good happens for somebody because of how volatile the internet is. It can just go crazy and explode out of nowhere. But when it's something bad like this and you really got it wrong and that wrong narrative explodes, well, you see what happens. You're putting it out there. This is worldwide. This isn't just America. I would argue 50%, maybe less, of his supporters, which are in the tens of thousands, are in America. You have women from Germany, Russia, Australia, Ukraine, all types of places. It's worldwide. And once it reaches that level,
it sort of feeds on itself. It's like a forest fire,
They're not going to spend hours looking into the facts and details before they really decide to support this guy. They're just going to get a TikTok video and it's like, look at this good-looking bad boy. Isn't he dreamy? And guess what? Over here in America, he's being framed and set up. He's an angel. We got to help him. And they're not looking any further into it than that. And that's it. And just that quick, you got that could have been the person who donated $10,000 and got a retainer for his lawyer to reverse this decision and appeal this death sentence and get him back free. That's how dangerous it is.
You mentioned earlier that he was causing trouble. Wade Wilson was on death row. What is he doing? What's happening there? Bring me up to speed.
What is he not doing? There are documented reports. I mean, this is all on paper, as well as sources from all over. He's throwing bodily fluids at guards. He's intentionally flooding, stopping up his toilet and flooding his cell so that they're kind of forced to let him out so it can be cleaned and mopped. He's yelling at guards. He's having these women by the dozens call and harass the people at this prison every day and make claims of him being mistreated or not getting what he's rightfully entitled to have, which they think that's the truth. And he's just using them to cause a ruckus. He's overdosed in his cell and had to be revived with Narcan. We have official letters that he's written to that long time, they call her the leader of the Wade wives. This is official letters that are on, a watermarked paper that are given by the prison for him to write to her, demanding $1,200 a week, or else they're going to break up and he'll never talk to her again. And he's getting this money for drugs and food. And he's just going crazy in there.
We know this happens. Drugs getting smuggled into prison. You mentioned earlier that you did some time, for nothing like this, obviously. And so you have a unique perspective here in all of your content creation. But how does somebody get that many drug deliveries sitting in death row in a Florida prison?
I get why when you think of death row, it's usually,
you think it's stricter than the other parts of the prison. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you're locked away. You're in a prison within a prison, which you kind of are. But, there's still human contact. There's still inmates who are trusted, who work in the kitchen, for example. They come down and they deliver the trays. They're one of the main delivery systems throughout the whole prison. I mean, the officers aren't over here fixing you up a plate of food and handing it to you. They're going to get the inmates to do that. the ones who have had good behavior and are trusted to do that. But the inmates, I mean, that's just the kitchen workers. There's laundry service. There's inmates who mop up death row. All of these people are used as delivery systems and are paid for it by either the recipient or the dealer. And so there's already a large stash in there. And that it's just a trickle down effect. It comes in from the people who are able to make that stuff happen. And then they have a large supply. And then people all over the prison's yard buy it. They usually, I mean, they're communicating through cell phones, contraband cell phones, or just word of mouth. And they're sending payments for this money. I'm sure Wade had plenty of people out on the outside sending money to someone who's also on the outside, who's kind of the Wade wife to this inmate, and that's really how it goes. Everybody's got somebody who's kind of handling their money out there. And it's just that easy. It'll be there at lunchtime when the lunch trays come. And sure enough, when he puts the lunch tray through there, he's going to drop a little baggie in there or whatever you ordered.
That's amazing to me. I don't think most people realize that. What does $1,200 a month buy Wade Wilson in prison? What does he get for that?
You could not spend $1,200 a month on only food and even hygiene and be able to consume all of that in prison. So I'd say there's probably a third of it, if that, going to snacks and commissary and canteen. Probably not much hygiene because he doesn't seem to care much about his hygiene in there. But the only thing that could be, it's not protection because he's locked away. No one's able to get to him. It's not protection. It's drugs. That's the only thing that calls for that kind of expense.
I always worry with these stories that maybe we're giving this horrible excuse of a human attention and he values that and he profits from it. But in your case, I truly believe that exposing these phone calls and the work you've done and the help that you gave this documentary shows him for what he really is. And I think it shows the Wade wives for who they really are. What is the most important impact you want this project to have? What do you want it to accomplish, Paul?
I hope that before it's kind of a two-part thing. On one hand, before you run to support somebody who's a criminal because they're going viral for their looks and, I think he's hot because clearly all these other women think he's hot. And so, yeah, I guess I kind of see it. And yeah, okay. And you start to feel some empathy and even some support for this person. That's what I think the docuseries did a good job of. Think about, the husband of Diane Ruiz that we saw crying, wondering where his wife was. Think about the kids who testified for what happened. They don't have their mother now. Think about the families and what he really did and how little care he would have. What do you think he would do to you? If he was out of prison, if you got him freed and all right, we can go on a date. What do you think's going to happen to you? I don't think they get that. And then number two, I think one of the most important things and what was always my purpose in this and my goal is if we can putting out all these phone calls, it should show these Wade wives that you're not special. He tells you you're the one. He tells all of these girls the same thing. And then he goes to another girl and laughs at that person he just talked to. He's laughing at all of you. He literally says himself in these phone call recordings, he calls you all gullible. He says you're dumb and you're stupid for donating and supporting him and how gullible you are. He thinks you're a joke. And so if we can expose this and make people realize that he's manipulating all of you, hopefully the support, especially the financial support, will go away. He doesn't deserve to be living like a king back there. And right now and up until now, he has been. He's getting everything you could want in there, drugs, food. He's got women sending him letters and photos and he's living as good of a life that you can live back there. And he doesn't deserve that. He deserves to live a crappy life until he's executed. And he doesn't deserve to have a crowd-funded appellate attorney to possibly go free, which I'm sure he will lose that, but it's ridiculous.
I think what you're doing and using your past and the way you've changed your life and learned from that is very similar to what guys like J.D. DeLay have done. And I think it's so valuable as a content creator. And it really is, in a way, redemption. But it also gives you, a special understanding of this world. And I want to thank you for sharing that with everybody and sharing it with me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, JD, perfect example, great friend of mine. I know he's worked with you, and he's done a great job of using the past to do something good. And that's all I'm trying to do. And, I can't change that happened, but I definitely learned from it, did my time. And I want to turn the hand that I kind of dealt myself into something positive.
Well, I think
so. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you, and thanks for coming on and having a seat with me. And we'll keep a close look out on this case, and I'd love to have you back on with updates and to talk about it. I mean, as I said at the top of the show, if there's anyone who deserves the death penalty, it's Wade Wilson.
Yes.
Paul White, a.k.a. Jumpsuit Pablo, thank you very much for having a seat with me. We'll talk to you soon.
Sir, thank you. Talk soon.
Check out the Handsome Devil documentary on Paramount Plus. It's just a wild ride. You'll enjoy it if you're a crime fan. I appreciate you tuning in here. We will see you on Monday with another episode of Predators I've Caught. Every Thursday, a new episode of Takedown with Chris Hansen comes out on my streaming crime network, True Blue. Watch trueblue.com for details. Until then, I will see you next Wednesday. Have a seat with me again. Thanks so much. I'll be watching.